So this is what a Justice Department under Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions III would be like based on his record. And thanks to the Times for putting this together. For starters, forget about aggressive protection of civil rights, voting rights in particular. Sessions called the Voting Rights Act of 1965, quote, a piece of intrusive legislation, end quote. Now just think about those words for a second. Intrusive legislation, the Voting Rights Act, that said American goddamn citizens had a right to vote, no matter what their race. And Beauregard calls that a piece of intrusive legislation. Jesus Christ. So, under Beauregard, you can bet that the Justice Department would focus less on prosecution of minority voter suppression. But you know what he would focus on? Voter fraud. Goddamn right, because those Negroes and those immigrants are out there and they're voting 7, 30, 50 times. That would be his focus. You want some proof? Well, before he was turned down as his nomination to be a federal judge, as a federal prosecutor, he brought voter fraud charges against 3 civil rights workers who were trying to register black voters in rural Alabama. The prosecution in that case turned up 14 allegedly doctored ballots out of 1.7 million cast, and the jury voted to acquit. And you can also forget any federal criminal justice reform. How about the prison population? How about private prisons? All of this shit, down the tubes. Forget about it. All of that was on the cusp of some legislation in Congress before Trump's so-called law and order campaign. And it was Sessions, it was Beauregard who definitely opposed bipartisan legislation to scale back those ridiculously harsh sentences that filled federal prisons with low-level drug offenders. Son of a bitch. Instead, Beauregard calls for more mandatory minimum sentences and harsher punishments for so-called drug crimes. Smoking a fucking joint is not a drug crime. But it is to Beauregard. Also, Sessions can do an awful lot of damage without any congressional action. The Times lays it out here. As Attorney General, he would set the guidelines prosecutors follow in deciding what cases and what charges to bring. In 2013, Eric Holder Jr. ordered his prosecutors to avoid the most severe charges in low-level, nonviolent drug cases, which has helped cut the number of absurdly long sentences for minor players. Somebody with a pound of pot, oh, big fucking deal. But you know what can happen to somebody with a pound of pot? You know what can happen if there's 2 of them? 2, not pounds, 2 people. All of a sudden it all changes. Now it becomes conspiracy. Conspiracy to distribute drugs. Holy shit. There goes 30 years of your life, right? Isn't that ridiculous? At a Senate hearing this past April, he said that there should be a ramping up of penalties for marijuana possession, use, sale, because, are you ready? Quote, good people don't smoke marijuana, end quote. Hey, asshole, I've been smoking it for 40 fucking years. What do you want to do about it? And I'll continue. If I have a conscious death, you know what I mean by that. If I have a conscious death, I told Kathy, I'm going to ask for a good hit of acid and a real fat joint. And I'll make my exit that way. Son of a bitch, good people don't smoke marijuana. Are you kidding me? Sessions also has been, Beauregard has been the Senate's most ardent opponent of fixing the immigration system. Now, get this. Just last year, he proposed a 5-year mandatory minimum sentence in federal prison for anyone re-entering the country illegally after being deported. That could increase the federal prison population by as much as 30%. And the prison industrial complex is just licking their lips and rubbing their hands and are thinking about that. Oh, God damn. Way to go, Beauregard. We love you. We love you, man. We love you. So as Trump's chief law enforcer, he's likely to fully support efforts to enlist local law enforcement in this dragnet for people without papers. It's a cliche. I mean, it's something out. It's a cliche. You will show me your papers. It's a goddamn joke until it isn't. And we're on the verge of it being isn't a joke. Oh, and he also likes the idea of banning Muslim immigrants. This could be our next attorney general. Are you paying attention? Also, Sessions wants to get a special prosecutor to continue investigating Hillary Clinton. And if he's attorney general, you know whose decision that'll be to make? His. Only his. These fucking people are not going to be happy until the Clintons go into a mutual suicide pact, right? Somebody opened their house in, where they live, Chappaqua, how do you say it? Upstate New York, and they'll find 2 rotting corpses on the floor. Will that make these bastards happy then? Probably not. They'll go after Chelsea. Then the editorial puts it, listen up. Donald Trump ran a presidential campaign that stoked white racial resentment. His choice for attorney general, which like his other choices has been praised by white supremacists, embodies that worldview. We expect today's senators, like their predecessors in 1986, to examine Mr. Sessions' views and record with bipartisan rigor. And if they do, it's hard to imagine they will endorse a man once rejected for a low-level judgeship to safeguard justice for all Americans as Attorney General. Well, you talk about wishful thinking. I mean, I certainly love some of the editorials I read in the nation's newspapers of record, but I do not believe for an instant, maybe you don't either, that Republican senators, if Sessions is the one, if Sessions comes up, if Beauregard is nominated to be Attorney General, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and really stick my head out here, and I'll say, you know what? I just don't see them turning down Beauregard. I think they'll confirm him. What do you think, Kathy? Oh, absolutely. Abso-damn-lutely.